So what if the internet wasn't your lifeline, but just a backup plan? Today we're going to talk about a company called DeReticular, and they believe our future really depends on tech that works offline first. And how they do it is just fascinating. They literally take consumer gadgets, crack them open, and physically re-engineer them for a world after the cloud. Okay, let's just park on this mission statement for a second because it's the key to everything they do. Sovereign infrastructure. I mean, what does that even mean? Well, it's all about taking back control. It's about building systems that don't need a constant umbilical cord-like connection to some distant data center. It's about giving you, the user, true ownership and, well, resilience. So to really get the hardware they're building, you first got to get inside their heads, you know? Let's break down the core philosophy that's driving every single decision they make. Okay, first principle up. Upcycle and ruggedize. What this really means is they're not trying to reinvent the wheel and build everything from scratch. Nope. They take perfectly good off-the-shelf consumer tech, like a mobile hotspot, and they perform some pretty serious surgery on it, turning a fragile gadget into a hardened industrial tool. Next up, they're completely rethinking security. I mean, forget about your cloud-based passwords that can get hacked from halfway across the world. Their whole model is built on a hardware root of trust. That means your identity is proven by a physical key, something in your pocket, and secure chips soldered right onto the board. It's security you can actually hold in your hand. And this is the big one. It's their ultimate design rule, island mode. Every single device they make must be able to do its job, its core function with zero internet connection. It has to work on its own little island, and then it only syncs up with the bigger network when and if a connection is available. This is totally non-negotiable for them. Okay, so that's the big idea, right? But what does the actual technology look like? Let's take a peek at their product line, what they call the Sovereign Arsenal. So here's a quick look at the main lineup. You can see it ranges from mobile gear like the Nomad Link, which we're going to dissect in just a minute, all the way up to these powerful stationary servers like the Sovereign Sentry. And you'll notice they also have a subscription service, which, as we'll see, plays a huge part in their whole business model. And this chart right here, this really tells the financial story. I mean, the hardware sales are solid, right? You're looking at gross margins between 40 and 50%. But get this, look at that services bar for their Sovereign Shield subscription. That's 100% margin. That recurring revenue is basically the lifeblood that lets them do all this complex hardware R&D. All right, now for my favorite part, the really hands-on stuff. How exactly do you upcycle a piece of consumer electronics? We are going to walk through the anatomy of their signature hardware hack, turning a standard Skylink modem into their super rugged Nomad Link. I mean, the transformation is pretty dramatic. On the left, you've got your typical consumer hotspot you could buy anywhere, with its standard lithium-ion battery. And on the right, you have the Nomad Link, a hardened, batteryless beast that's ready for extreme heat and vibration. So how do they get from point A to point B? It's a delicate process they call the surgical mod. First, and this is absolutely critical, they rip out the stock battery. This is to stop it from exploding in the heat. Then, they solder this tiny little resistor onto the board, which basically tricks the device into thinking a healthy battery is still there. After that, they install a whole new circuit so it can be powered by an external source. And finally, everything gets put back together in a custom case with a tamper seal. Now, that Nomad Link is the crucial connection to the outside world for sure, but it's not a lone wolf. It's really just one part of a much bigger system. So let's take a look at how all these pieces fit together to create a truly sovereign ecosystem. The Nomad Link connects to the brains of the operation, the Rios telemetry core. Now, they start with a Raspberry Pi 5, but they seriously upgrade it for reliability. They throw out the failure-prone microSD card and replace it with durable NVMe storage. Then they add this massive aluminum case for cooling and put in a dedicated clock battery, which is super important for getting accurate timestamps when you're totally offline. And for their stationary units, the security is just baked into the software. They call it the Trinity Stack. Basically, it's 3 separate virtual machines all running on one server. One acts as a hardened firewall. The second one manages all the core data. And the third, and this is the cool part, runs a version of Kali Linux that does nothing but constantly attack and audit the system for any weaknesses. It's like a self-healing digital fortress. So how do you get into this digital kingdom? Not with a password. You use a physical key. This device lets you log in without a password and cryptographically signs any critical commands. At the end of the day, access isn't about what you know, it's about what you physically have. Okay, so this is a really ambitious vision, But it's not without some serious challenges. Building tech for the real world means you have to plan for failure. Let's look at the biggest risks DeReticular is up against and how they plan to deal with them. The number one risk, and it is a big one, is fire. A consumer-grade lithium-ion battery left in a hot truck can swell up and explode violently. It's called thermal runaway. Their solution is simple, and it's absolute. The battery must come out. It's a non-negotiable step in their process, period. But what happens when the company making the modem they rely on just stops making it? It's a huge supply chain risk. So their strategy has two parts. First, they stockpile large quantities of the consumer units, and at the same time, they're testing a much more expensive industrial-grade modem that can serve as a backup if they need it. You know what hates heavy vibration and unstable power? Those cheap little SD cards? They're notorious for failing and corrupting data. For a system that depends on data integrity, that's just not acceptable. And that's why they have a company-wide ban on using SD cards for storage, requiring tougher, much more reliable NVMe SSDs in everything. And of course, there's the legal side of things. The second you crack open that case and pull out a soldering iron, poof, the original warranty is gone. DeReticular is super transparent about this. They offer their own 90-day warranty that specifically covers the modifications and the craftsmanship of their work. And all of this leaves us with one last big question. For those critical situations, in remote environments where failure just is not an option and off-the-shelf stuff won't cut it, is this kind of hands-on, deep-level hardware hacking the only real way forward? It's something to think about.